This is a WDSU special presentation. Hurricane season has arrived. And this year, some communities are still facing challenges from the past year.
This is ridiculous. I'm not seeing any help. It's an eyesore on the bayou.
We have a tornado we're still cleaning up from.
Continuous impacts in recent years have led to a change of heart for many who've called the Gulf Coast home for decades.
Most of my neighbors have already sold their house. They've not only sold their house, they bought another house, and it's away from here.
For the next 30 minutes, stories of perseverance, lessons learned going forward, and of course, expert advice from the WDSU meteorologist team to help guide you through the next 6 uncertain months.
We know the last thing you want to think about right now is another hurricane season.
Yeah, Meg, we've had more Category 4 and 5 storms in the past 5 years than we had in the 50 years before then.
Communities in southeast Louisiana are still recovering from last year's disaster, Hurricane Ida.
And some in southwest Louisiana are still rebuilding 2 years after Hurricane Laura.
Both were catastrophic Category 4 storms, and we cannot stress enough that it's time to get ready now.
It looks like it's going to be another active hurricane season for the 7th year in a row. NOAA is forecasting an above-average season with as many as 21 named storms. 6 to 10 of those become hurricanes and 3 to 6 major hurricanes. So why is it going to be so active? Blame it on the climate. Unfortunately, we have got the right ingredients for an active hurricane season again. We do not have an El Nino. That's the warm water in the East Tropical Pacific.
When El Nino occurs, what it tends to do is increase the winds at upper levels, so say 20, 30,000 feet in the atmosphere, increases them out of the west, and that tends to tear apart hurricanes as they're trying to develop and to intensify.
In fact, it looks like La Nina will continue into summer. Those are the cool waters along the coast of Peru, and La Nina does nothing to prevent tropical development. Notice how much cooler those waters are running. Meanwhile, in the Atlantic, the tropical Atlantic water temperatures are near normal, but the subtropical waters are warmer than normal.
When those waters are warmer in the subtropics, that tends to force lower pressure, which then weakens the winds blowing across the tropical Atlantic, and that consequently causes the tropical Atlantic to warm as well.
So the tropical Atlantic waters are looking warm this summer. Warm water is the fuel for tropical development. Lower pressure means plenty of moisture and rising air. La Nina means there will be a lack of wind shear, add in a disturbance, and conditions are ripe for development. Say it isn't so, but the 2022 hurricane season is looking like a busy one. The Gulf of Mexico is warm like a bathtub, and when conditions are right with low wind shear, plenty of moisture, and the warm Gulf loop, well, disturbances can blow up quickly and make landfall as major hurricanes. It's what we call rapid intensification.
Yeah, that's right, Margaret. Louisiana has been in the crosshairs for 2 years now. That's with Laura and Ida.
Tropical Depression 9 formed in the Western Caribbean Thursday, August 26, 2021.
So here we are, moving onshore.
It was forecast to make landfall as a major hurricane that Sunday along the north-central Gulf. In fact, it went from a 35-mile-per-hour depression to a major hurricane Ida, making landfall with 150-mile-per-hour winds in just 73 hours.
To get those very strongest storms, it has to really involve rapid intensification, and that tends to happen early in a storm's life cycle.
Ida went through rapid intensification. That's when a storm strengthens from 35 miles per hour in a 24-hour period. Only Ida intensified 35 miles per hour in a 5-hour period.
Lightning, if there's a whole lot of lightning, can indicate that it is intensifying.
It went from 115 miles per hour at 1 a.m. Sunday to 150 mile per hour winds by 6 a.m. Sunday. Laura also went through rapid intensification. Winds increased 65 miles per hour in a 24-hour period. The problem is these hurricanes are getting stronger right before landfall.
And that's how we get some of the strongest storms that make landfall in the United States. They form within 3 or 4 days. They rapidly intensify right up to the coast. And that sort of speaks to making sure you have a short fuse, like 3 to 4 day hurricane plan to get yourself ready.
The Louisiana coast is made of brown, warm water. The warm water sustains the hurricane and does not cause much friction. So hurricanes that hit our coast, they don't die down quickly.
Especially if the storm's moving quickly, it doesn't have time to weaken. So that's why you can get those hurricane force winds well inland over the New Orleans metropolitan area, over parts of Louisiana like we saw with Ida last year.
Hurricane Ida had just been through an eye wall replacement cycle before landfall. Hurricanes normally expand the wind field after a replacement. Thankfully, Ida ran out of time to expand. The damage could have been worse.
Water is the #1 killer in hurricanes. Mark Sudduth with HurricaneTrack.com brings us that terrifying reality of storm surge. Now, most people understand there is a water rise ahead of a hurricane, but they don't really know what it looks like. This is Ida's 9-foot storm surge with 3 to 5 foot waves on top of it at Prenier Landing right on the west side of Lake Pontchartrain. The camera is up 10 feet and it's going under. No one can survive this. Mark Sudduth is on a mission to educate the public on the dangers of storm surge. Here's Sudduth preparing for Hurricane Ida.
12:05 a.m. Eastern Central Time, 12:05 Central Time, Sunday, August 29th. Wow.
He put 19 cameras in waterproof boxes along Ida's forecast track from Waveland to Golden Meadow to capture the storm surge. 3 went up here at Prenier Landing on the west side of the lake.
We put a huge chip in there. It's a 400 gigabyte chip. And that'll give us 36 hours of high definition video.
And you put one right up there?
Right. We brought our ladder. We were at about 10 feet above the ground level. And the GoPro was looking up Peavine. And then the live cam, we wanted it to look over there because the other one of these was on that back column looking that way. So we had 3 different angles.
So the cameras look west and southwest and south, but not east.
It'll fill up so fast that it'll just look like the lake. There's no context.
At 1 p.m. looking south, the lake is already over Prenier Landing and rising.
It's live and recorded ground truth of exactly what happened. It's not ambiguous. It's data. It's like a black box of an airline disaster that in our case are these little yellow Pelican case boxes to show exactly what happened, how it happened, when it happened. I mean, a true record of the hurricane disaster, unlike anything we've ever seen before.
At 5 p.m., the waves are hitting the camera that's up 10 feet. There was a water rise of several feet in just an hour.
Seeing how the storm surge works from these cameras' point of view was absolutely remarkable and very telling because you could literally see the wind blowing on top of the surface of the water at point-blank range.
At 7 p.m., waves crashed into the camera under the restaurant, popped the straps, and it was washed away with the camera still recording, looking up at the trees, debris, and more. Sudduth says it's haunting.
That could be what you see before you drown if you don't heed these very serious evacuation warnings. The camera showed us that, something we've never seen before.
That same storm surge that hit Prenier Landing flooded LaPlace, and that's where meteorologist Lee Southwick picks up the story.
I had 2.5 feet of water in my house.
Gene Franquez has lost his home twice, first to Hurricane Isaac, then to Hurricane Ida. A Vietnam veteran, he's now homeless again.
9 years ago, I survived another flood, Hurricane Isaac. That was tough. That was really tough. 9 years later, I'm surviving another flood. Everything that I saved from the first flood got destroyed on this flood, and then more. Oh, I pray they get the levee built.
The $764 million West Shore Lake Pontchartrain Risk Reduction Project is currently in the works. So far, they have some access roads built and a test section of the levee underway. The project's scheduled completion 2024.
Once this risk reduction system is in place, it doesn't eliminate the risk. That's why we call it a risk reduction system. It won't be anything like the flooding they've experienced. They shouldn't see the amounts of water that they've seen in these last few hurricanes.
The Army Corps of Engineers doesn't anticipate any major delays, but for now, Gene is taking up shelter at the American Legion office.
And now we're in hurricane season, and it's going to be a long, scary season.
Lee Southwick, WDSU News.
We all saw what happened to our levees during Hurricane Katrina. Major flooding.
Margaret, since then we had more than a $14 billion investment, and it's paid off. New Orleans didn't flood during Hurricane Ida.
This is the Hurricane Storm Damage Risk Reduction System, also known as HSDRS locally. What we have here is a series of levees, flood walls, gates, pumping stations. Just about 1 million people are protected with the Hurricane Storm Damage Risk Reduction System.
But in order for this system to retain its designed effectiveness, it needs nearly constant upkeep. I spoke with Chris Humphreys, who tells me that a levee isn't just a mound of dirt, but has several components to it.
The levees are armored, meaning they have the high-performance turf matting underneath the grass to keep it from eroding if it were overtopped.
So how do you lift a levee?
We take off the sod and the turf matting so that we're down to the soil, then we'll build it back up from there.
But the levee walls need to be maintained too, and according to a recent report, several miles of existing wall will need to be rebuilt.
Most likely those walls will be T-walls, which means they will be founded on deep piles, over 100 feet into the soil, and build a base and then build a wall up from that.
But the maintenance is a never-ending project.
So we're constantly looking for problems that may have occurred, lightning strikes, animal burrows, any number of things that we need to fix. And we're out every day repairing.
And thanks to their hard work, we'll all be protected from another catastrophic storm surge event for decades to come.
Preparing for a storm means being ready, not only ahead of landfall, but also after. We all know utilities can be out for some period of time.
Yeah, so you want to be sure to have a basic disaster kit for you and your family while you wait for assistance to arrive. Leaders suggest to have at least 1 week of food and water per person. In addition to gathering your supplies, you want to have an emergency plan. Prepare financially. Get your cars and home ready. And of course, make sure you have all your important documents in one place.
Many people are still rebuilding after Hurricane Ida last year. Coming up, concerns from coastal communities down the bayou. We also look at the architecture that could be utilized to survive a storm. But could you afford it?